Welcome back. So the Apple September event just happened and there was some pretty cool stuff. I'm just gonna go in the same order that the announcements came. So starting with the Apple Watch. Series 8 now has temperature sensors to help get more info for women's health, which stays on your device and is fully encrypted using your passcode, Touch ID, or Face ID. There's also a new 3-axis gyroscope and a G-force accelerometer to help detect if you're in a severe car crash, so you can quickly call emergency services. Also, there's a low power mode that's gonna allow for up to 36 hours of battery life, which sounds really interesting, but I do wonder what's gonna get disabled if you switch it on. Like, is it still tracking activity, but like turning off like notifications and stuff, or is it purely just to check the time? I do wanna test it out. And aside from an updated S8 chip, I think the rest of it is still pretty similar to the Series 7, so you still have the 41 and 45 millimeter sizes, along with the same screen to body ratio. But there are also two more watches announced, the SE and the Apple Watch Ultra. So the SE has the same motion sensors and processor as the Series 8, so it can also detect if you're in a car crash, but it is a little smaller at 40 and 44 millimeters, and it's also missing a few other things like the always-on display, dust resistance, and the ECG. Now, Apple Watch Ultra is the one that I thought was the most interesting, but the least applicable to me. This is supposed to be a more rugged and robust watch for like athletes and adventurers. So the fully titanium case comes up to surround a flat display and protect it from the edges. The digital crown and side button are modified so they're easier to use with like gloves on. And there's a third action button, so you can customize it and quickly control different functions. But I think the most impressive part of the Apple Watch Ultra is the battery life. So you get 36 hours of normal use and up to 60 hours on low power mode. Now I have the same questions that I do with the low power mode on the Series 8, like what is it disabling and how is it saving the power? But if you're still getting most of your smartwatch features, 60 hours is fantastic. I feel like I need to see this more like in person to gauge the design. I'm not sure how I feel about the rounded bottom part with the flat walls around the display. But overall, it does seem like a good value for athletes who are gonna use all of these like more extreme niche features that isn't available in like the regular series of Apple Watches. But let me know down in the comments what you think. Up next are Airpods Prep, which have a new H2 chip for more efficient battery life, up to 2 times more active noise cancellation, and better adaptive transparency so you can hear the world around you, but intensity of things like sirens and power tools are lowered. And for the case, there's a U1 chip along with a speaker so you can use the Find My network to find your AirPods and even play sounds if you can't see them. You can also charge the case via Lightning, MagSafe, any Qi charger, and even your Apple Watch charger, so like you have some options if you forget one of your cables. I really want to try these out, like especially the adaptive transparency mode seems really interesting. Even just thinking about how the tech behind it works and how the H2 chip is doing all these processes and algorithms to be able to pull out certain frequencies of noise that is in the environment around you, but allow you to hear everything else. And last up are the iPhones. So these look pretty similar to last year's lineup, except instead of the 14 mini, you have the 14 Plus. For the cameras, you have the main sensor that was in the 13 Pro lineup with optical image stabilization, and a new action mode for smoother handheld shots. Also, cinematic mode can now record up to 4K at 24 frames per second. iPhone 14 also has the ability to do emergency SOS via satellite. So if you don't have cell signal or Wi-Fi available, you can still get help if you need it. And this doesn't sound like a feature that you'll be using all the time, like making phone calls via satellite, but it does seem like it's a really nice to have for those situations when you really do need it. There's also the same crash detection features that you get on the new Apple Watches. And all of this is being powered by the same A16 Bionic from the 13 Pro lineup. It really feels like the Pro iPhones are where they bring in new features that then make their way down to the non-Pro iPhones. And this year, along with everything I just mentioned, the Pros have an always-on display that's supposed to be as bright as the Pro Display XDR and twice as bright as the sun, which is definitely nice to have. But I've said this before, and I just want a phone screen that doesn't light up the entire room when I check for notifications or the time at night. Also, rather than a notch, there's a pill-shaped cutout called the Dynamic Island, which is integrated into the software experience of the phone. I really like how they were able to like blend the hardware and the software together to work around the fact that there's a chunk of the screen missing. I'm really excited to try it out. And for the cameras, the main sensor is now 48 megapixel that groups 4 pixels together to give you really good low light photos at a smaller 12 megapixel size. But if you want that full resolution, ProRAW lets you get a full 48 megapixel image to work with. Despite that larger sensor, there's no option to record 8K video. Hopefully there will be next year. But cinematic video at 4K should still be fun. And powering all of this is the A16 Bionic, with nearly 16 billion transistors at a 4 nanometer process and a new ISP to power that 48 megapixel camera. Also, the special Pro color this year is deep purple, and I think it's my favorite color they've ever done. But that's all for the September Apple event. I look forward to testing out some of the things they announced. Be sure to subscribe down below for that and more videos about tech, cameras, and making. Here's my review of the iPhone 13 Pro, and here's a video that YouTube thinks you're gonna like the best.